Normally what happens is that one or the other of us will have an idea for a little musical idea, and then when the three of us get together to play, to rehearse, and we will work on all of these little ideas, and eventually the little ideas grow into bigger ideas. Sometimes they're connected together. This idea from this week and this idea from last week get put together into one song. It's a very collaborative process. It's not like I write the music and Bob writes the words or something like that. Everything sort of happens organically. In the United States, we travel with some amplifiers and speakers that we built. We can't afford to ship them overseas, so when we travel in Europe, we're using a hybrid of equipment that's from just conventional rented equipment, and plus we bring some stuff from the US to make it a little bit more familiar. The idea was that if we made our own equipment, we could make it something that suited us exactly, you know. So we like the idea of a symmetrical arrangement on stage where we have Bob on one side and me on the other side, Todd in the middle. I don't really have a single favorite band that I've worked with, but there are a few bands that I have done multiple records with, and because we've had like a long relationship, we've ended up becoming very good friends. I did 10 or 11 records with the band Silkworm. That band doesn't exist anymore, but the members the drummer in that band was killed and the band broke up, but the surviving members of that band and I have remained very good friends. I've done 5 or 6 records with a woman named Nina Nastasia in New York, and we've become very good friends, her and her boyfriend and my wife. The 4 of us get along very well, and we spend a lot of time together. And so I think that's probably more important to me, like being able to have like really meaningful friendships develop out of a studio relationship. I think that's more important than any one. I did a bunch of records with a band from Chicago called the Jesus Lizard. I did 3 or 4 albums with them, and the majority of that stuff I think is really great. Really, they were the best band of that era, of the early 90s, and they made a lot of really good records during that period, and I enjoyed working on all those records. I haven't actually done that many huge band records. I've done a few, maybe 3 or 4 records for like actual rock stars. Everybody else that I work with is kind of a working musician, you know, people that I would consider peers, and all of those people have very practical reasons for doing things. Like if they have a certain budget for the record, they can satisfy their creative desire and stay within the budget if I work on it. Whereas if somebody more famous or more expensive worked on it, then they wouldn't be able to afford it. So I think that's part of it, is that financially it's relatively cheap to work on a record, for me to work on a record. There's that, and then I also think a lot of bands are part of a community, and if one band has a good experience in the studio, they'll tell their friends, and they'll tell their friends, and then everyone sort of participates in the same way. Well, it should be obvious to begin with. It should be obvious that we're not fascists. And what we were commenting on with the song Il Duce was the mundane aspects of Mussolini were the things that he celebrated the most. Like, he was very proud of the way he dressed, and he always had a lot of regalia and a lot of people surrounding him, and a lot of you know, the sort of trappings of office were very important to him. And he never said something, he never just said something, he would always make a proclamation, you know, and he never went anywhere. He always had a big procession with a parade and everything, you know. So But in the end, they cut his head off and played football with it, you know. So the idea was that his opinion of himself was not was ultimately not as important as his actual place in the world.
Like, did you bring your luggage
Into. Are you guys going to the hotel now? Are we basically done?
Yes, we are almost done.